Good afternoon. 57 degrees at 4:40. I'm Lori Madden, and here's what's happening. The Associated Press is reporting that New York Attorney General Letitia James has been indicted on a fraud charge. Zohran Mamdani stops by 1010 Wins as we continue our series with the mayoral candidates. And there's a new poll out on the mayoral race. A Bronx man facing murder charges for allegedly beating another man to death at the J Street Metrotech station. An investigation is underway into what caused the fast-moving fire that ripped through multiple stores in Hicksville, reducing a stretch along Broadway to rubble. Don't be surprised if you see Superman, Spider-Man, and Luke Skywalker walking around the city this weekend. Comic-Con is underway at the Javits Center. 1010 Wins AccuWeather says clear sky tonight, low 47, sunshine tomorrow, high 63. Wins News Time 441 from the Mercedes-Benz of Edison.com Traffic Center. Let's get you where you need to go. Here's Greg Rice.
Well, Lori, we had late-running construction Staten Island bound on the Verrazano upper level. Now, that is gone, but that didn't clear nearly in time, and that's why we're dealing with this mess now. The westbound belt bumper to bumper from Flatbush Avenue to the Verrazano, and the outbound Gowanus is still slow from the belt split. Now, the eastbound belt, that's also loaded up from the Verrazano all the way out past Ocean Parkway as they get rid of a collision, and then more eastbound brake lights on the belt from right after Plum Beach getting up towards Erskine Street. Here's what you need to know about the bridges and tunnels. Citybound George is fine, and that's about where the good news ends. West Side Highway slow ride from the 60s on up, and everything else is worse. The Lincoln Tunnel 30 in, 60 minutes out, 90 minutes home at the Holland, and on the Jersey side, the Newark Bay better either way. Now on Manhattan's west side, you got northbound West Side Highway 12th Avenue shut down over at 41st Street because of an ongoing investigation. It's also why 42nd Street is still closed westbound between 11th and 12th Avenue. Southbound west side coming down towards Chelsea Piers. You've also got a crash knocking out multiple lanes at this point. East side of Manhattan, the northbound crawl continues from before the Brooklyn Bridge pretty much to the George. Southbound slows from the 130s all the way down towards the 20s. An earlier crash on the FDR in the 50s is gone, but that didn't help. Greg Rice, 1010 Wins at 92.3 FM.
The Associated Press is reporting that New York Attorney General Letitia James has been indicted on a fraud charge. A Trump-appointed prosecutor, Lindsay Halligan, had been seeking an indictment for allegations of mortgage fraud.
This investigation has been going on for a number of months. A previous prosecutor, we've been told, concluded that there was not enough evidence to charge Letitia James with mortgage fraud. That prosecutor was forced out, and Trump's hand-picked U.S. Attorney Lindsay Halligan is in, the same prosecutor who opted to move for an indictment against the former FBI Director James Comey.
That's correspondent Aaron Katursky. James successfully brought a civil fraud case against President Trump last year and leads multiple lawsuits challenging his administration's policies. We have not heard from New York Attorney General James. She has not yet released a public comment. Make sure you stay with 1010 Wins and 1010wins.com for the very latest on this still developing story. On the campaign trail today, the Democratic nominee for mayor of New York City sat down with 1010 Wins for a wide-ranging discussion.
Zohran Mamdani says an imminent ceasefire deal in Gaza doesn't erase the tragedy of the last 2 years.
The tragedy with Hamas's horrific war crime on October 7th and the Israeli government's horrific war crimes since then, leading to the genocide of Palestinians.
He says the message should be everyone for everyone. On public safety, he doesn't see a need to add police officers.
Keep the numbers that we have, and I think the important thing is we allow the cops to do the job of focusing on serious crimes. We don't ask them to be the primary responders to the mental health crisis.
Instead, he'd send teams of mental health workers to subway stations with high rates of homelessness and mental health crises. Mac Rosenberg, 1010 Wins on 92.3 FM.
You can see the entire interview at 1010wins.com. We will be sitting down with Andrew Cuomo on Monday. Meanwhile, Zohran Mamdani remains the front runner with a double-digit lead. The first poll since Mayor Adams exited the race has been released. And while Andrew Cuomo picked up all of Adams' support, Mamdani still has a 13-point lead. Pollster Mary Snow is with Quinnipiac.
Cuomo's support among Jewish voters really jumped. That is what stands out in this poll. He now has 60% of the vote among Jewish likely voters. Compare that to a month ago, and he and Mamdani were competitive.
The Quinnipiac poll found Mamdani with 46% of likely voters, Cuomo with 33%, and 15% were behind Republican Curtis Sliwa. A suspect has been taken into custody in Lindenhurst, Long Island, after an off-duty NYPD cop was stabbed.
The two brothers are NYPD officers. They were off duty when they say they saw a 27-year-old man stealing things from a parked car on this Lindenhurst street. This resident says the two men sprang into action.
Both cops screaming that they were off-duty NYPD officers and that they had someone pinned against the wall there. And I saw one of the brothers had gotten stabbed in the leg.
The officer suffered a non-life-threatening injury. The suspect was taken into custody.
I'm retired NYPD, so I don't want anyone getting hurt, especially with something like this.
You can see the blood in the middle of the street where authorities say the officer was stabbed. Sophia Hall, 1010 Wins on 92.3 FM on Long Island.
A Bronx man has been arrested on murder and robbery charges for the beating death of another man Tuesday afternoon at the J Street Metro Tech station in Brooklyn. Police say 25-year-old David Mazaregos beat 64-year-old Nicola Tanzi of Brooklyn to death, punching him in the head multiple times, kicking him when he was on the ground. He reportedly told police he didn't like the way Tanzi looked at him. The two apparently interacted at an emergency exit gate when the attack happened. Shocked business owners in Hicksville are going through the rubble of what's left of their stores this afternoon after a fast-moving fire ripped through a stretch of Broadway overnight.
The smell of smoke still lingers in the air here as shop owners dig through what's left of their stores. No one was seriously hurt, but it's still heartbreaking to Markella Malios.
It's my family now. My dad retired. My cousin owns the business now, the House of Donuts.
Flames gutted 4 businesses here along Marie Street, including the newly opened Hello Munchies, where Fire Chief Joe DeFranzo says the fire started.
We had to evacuate the building. When the guys got out of the building, the first floor collapsed.
Firefighters say the damage is extensive and investigators are looking into the cause. Darius Ramsey, 1010 Wins on 92.3 FM in Hicksville, Long Island.
Governor Hochul is accusing the Trump administration of defunding the police by denying the MTA $34 million in funds for transit safety.
Of the 21 regions that have applied for this funding, the security funding, New York is the only one that's been denied. So this is not hyperbole. This is not exaggerating. This is the reality. We have been singled out.
The Department of Homeland Security announced that it was denying the transit security grant, money historically given to the MTA and already promised for this year. New York Attorney General Letitia James has already taken legal action to restore the funding. A U.S. lawmaker says nearly a quarter of the FBI's 13,000 agents across the country are now assigned to immigration enforcement.
Democratic Virginia Senator Mark Warner shared the latest data with the Washington Post. Agents that were working on cybercrime, drug trafficking, terrorism, and counterintelligence have been reassigned to the immigration crackdown. Sources tell the Post agent morale is low as they're stretched thin, with some of them forced to work overnights to keep up with their other investigations. FBI Director Kash Patel's office says the reassignments have not impacted the Bureau's ability to conduct its other duties.
Correspondent Michael Wallace. President Trump's use of the National Guard is before a pair of judges this afternoon. In one case, a hearing is being held in federal court in Chicago.
500 Texas and Illinois-based National Guardsmen called up, some stationed at the Broadview, Illinois ICE Processing Center to provide additional security. This afternoon, a federal judge will hear arguments on whether to block their deployment after warning the administration Tuesday, saying, if I was the government, I would strongly consider taking a pause on this.
Correspondent Alex Perez. Another case is being heard in Portland, Oregon. Alex Jones is asking the U.S. Supreme Court to block the billion-dollar defamation judgment against him over his false claims that the 2012 Sandy Hook school shooting was a hoax. The conspiracy theorist says the court must act immediately to prevent his site, InfoWars, from being handed over to the satirical site The Onion. 20 first graders and 6 adults were killed in that massacre. The families of the children won their defamation case against Jones. Don't be surprised if you see Ghostbusters wandering around the city.
There is no bigger, only soul. What a lovely singing voice you must have.
That story's coming up next. Wins News Time 4:51. But first, let's get you where you need to go. Here's Greg Rice.
Well, the trouble continues on Manhattan's west side. 41st Street is still where they've shut down northbound 12th Avenue, all because of an ongoing investigation. So 12th Avenue, the west side, whatever you want to call it, forget about it. It's a crawl in fits and starts from lower Manhattan all the way up to the 40s, southbound west side in the 20s. We're also getting rid of a crash near Chelsea Piers. Now, the ride on the east side is worse. Northbound FDR bumper-to-bumper ride from the Brooklyn Bridge all the way to the George. Southbound crowded from the 130s down towards the 20s. There was an earlier wreck on the west side in the 20s, and that in the 50s, I should say. That kind of did us in either direction. Here's what you need to know about the bridges and tunnels. Citybound George, good enough to the upper and lower. The west side, north of the 40s, is the best of what you've got getting out of town. Lincoln, 30 to 40 in, 60 minutes out. Only 12th Avenue is shut down, but everything else is just messy. Holland, a 90-minute outbound proposition. Inbound Skyway's awful. Newark Bay, at least a little better. And the Clearview Throgsneck combination, best of what you've got across the Upper East River. Greg Rice, 1010 wins at 92.3 FM.
Let's get a check now of your AccuWeather forecast. Here's meteorologist Matt Benz.
Clear and chilly for tonight, but turning stormy this weekend. More on that just a moment. But for tonight, falling down to a low of 47 in Midtown, but areas of frost are possible in more distant Hudson Valley and Jersey suburbs where temperatures can slip back into the mid-30s. Tomorrow, cool day, sunshine, patchy clouds, high of 63. Dry for Saturday with some sun, a high of 67. And we're watching a coastal low that's going to gradually gather strength here for this weekend, not only delivering rain to the tri-state, but the potential for serious coastal flooding and also the risk for strong winds, a high 62. Right now, it's 57 degrees in Central Park under a sunny sky. Repeating, the current temperature is 57, falling down to 47 tonight in Midtown. I'm AccuWeather meteorologist Matt Benz on New York's weather station, 1010 Winds at 92.3 FM.
Is that Darth Vader crossing the street here in the city? Could be. Comic-Con kicked off today at the Javits Center, and some 200,000 fans are expected throughout the weekend, many in costume. Some of the celebrities on hand this year include Lawrence Fishburne and Sigourney Weaver, that is. My correction there. It's New York. There's always something to do on the weekend. Of course, there's Comic-Con. Now, Bloomberg Money Watch.
Yesterday's records for the NASDAQ and S&P were a one and done, or would that be a two and through? Either way, we finished lower today. Dow down 243, NASDAQ and S&P each down 19. Sports cars are fast, so are electric cars. So what could be better than a sports electric car? That was the logic initially pushing Ferrari to embrace EVs. But now, after failing to attract customers, it's cutting that ambition in half, saying all electrics will make up only 20% of its lineup by 2030. That comes even as Ferrari offers the first glimpse of its first ever EV, the NV, with a 0 to 60 in 2.5 seconds and a top speed of 310 miles per hour. I'm Andrew Roday, Bloomberg Money Watch on 1010 Winds at 92.3 FM.
WINS FM in HD1 New York. Always live on the free Odyssey app.
More people get their news from 1010 Winds than from any other radio station in the nation. Sarah Milano is our writer. Swetina Kakar is at the editor's desk. I'm Lori Metten.
All news, all the time. This is 1010 Winds at 92.3 FM, New York.
Good afternoon, 57 degrees now at 5 o'clock. I'm Larry Mullins, and here's what's happening. President Trump reportedly going after political polls with a special appointee in Virginia edging towards an indictment tonight against New York Attorney General Tish James. It's unclear if it's an actual thing as yet. We're hearing the grand jury hasn't been presented. We'll have the latest coming right up. Also tonight on 1010 Winds, the latest voice in our Meet the Candidate series. All the mayoral candidates sitting down with us to tell you their story and why each would be best for New York. Today, it was Zoran Mamdani. A big corruption investigation on Long Island as the DA investigates at least a half dozen people for allegedly allowing a chief to come in and take CDL driving tests for everybody. The push for a law that would require more regulatory inspections for steam radiators, and especially in homes where little ones dwell and where they can get injured. And the cops getting some new wheels. We did a ride-along today as the NYPD rolled out some of its new fleet of SUV hybrids. AccuWeather says tonight, clear and chilly. We will drop down to a low of 47 degrees on this Thursday night. Wins News Time 5:01. And from your Mercedes-Benz of Edison.com traffic center to get you where you need to go tonight. Here's Greg Rice.
Well, the West Side Highway northbound still shut at West 41st Street. You might call it 12th Avenue, but you're going to call it bad either way. Northbound to West Side, a lot of traffic to the Holland Tunnel. And then after that mess, you're slow from just north of Christopher Street all the way up towards the 40s. Along the West Side, southbound, everybody is nosy and slow from the 1-teens all the way down towards the 40s. Now, north of the 40s, the West Side Highway, it's going to slow again from the 70s up to the George, but deal with it because everything else is far, far worse. Citybound George, good enough. Again, the West Side, the best of it out. Lincoln, 30 in, 60 plus at the outbound Lincoln, at least 90 minutes home at the Holland. The Newark Bay, the better of it either way. On the Jersey side, Brooklyn-bound Brooklyn Bridge, city-bound Battery Tunnel, city-bound Midtown Tunnel, all still so slow. And across the Upper East, the Clearview Throgs Neck combination, that's the one you want. LI, the worst of it, home for Queens. Grand Central, a whole lot of eastbound traffic over to Utopia Parkway, but it's still the lesser of two evils. And the Belt, bumper to bumper westbound from Flatbush Avenue to the Verrazano. Staten Island bound upper level, the worst of it, and then more westbound traffic on the Verrazano all the way to the West Shore Expressway. Greg Rice, 1010 wins at 92.3 FM.
She found him guilty of bank fraud. And tonight, there's word President Trump has found an appointed prosecutor to charge her with mortgage fraud. The ongoing saga, the alleged revenge tour, where President Trump has gone after his political opponents and those who charge him with crimes, with his sights set on New York Attorney General Tish James. Earlier attempts ended with career prosecutors telling Trump there's nothing here to charge this woman with. They were all fired. And now Trump's appointee, Lindsay Halligan, has decided this afternoon to present court papers against Ms. James, hoping for an indictment to stick. The latest from Washington.
It's not immediately clear what the outcome of the grand jury presentation is, whether the grand jury is going to go forward with an indictment, whether Halligan needs to make an additional presentation to that grand jury. But she has been under investigation for mortgage fraud in connection with a property that she purchased in Norfolk, Virginia.
So again, the grand jury return has not been submitted to a clerk. So far, no comment from Letitia James. We will keep you posted. As you know, this week, former FBI Director James Comey also fell under indictment. Trump, talking to reporters at the White House, says, quote, "It looks to me like she's," referring to James, "really guilty of something, but I really don't know," end quote. Well, it was the second sit-down in our continuing Meet the Candidate interviews here in New York on 1010 Wins, and Democratic mayoral nominee Zoran Mamdani pulled up a chair to talk with us. Without question, in the last few months, he's gone from a no-name to one of the favorites in the race, and today told our Susan Richard it's because of his stance on fighting crime and dealing with the federal government that hasn't been kind to New York. It's Mac Rosenberg.
Zoran Mamdani sees progress on crime, but says people still don't feel safe in the subway.
Oftentimes what they're actually describing are not things that we might categorize as crime, but they are signs of a mental health crisis, of a homelessness crisis.
Which is why he wants to create a new mental health response team. And if President Trump threatens to cut off federal funding, Mamdani says there are legal tools.
The first thing is we have to stop treating everything that he says as if it's already the law just by virtue of him saying it.
City-run grocery stores and a rent freeze on stabilized units are two of his big ideas he says he can get done without Albany's help. Mac Rosenberg, 1010 Wins on 92.3 FM.
And we invite you to go to our website and all our social platforms for the extended interview with the mayoral candidates. Curtis Lewa was here on Tuesday, and on Monday, former Governor Andrew Cuomo will be here in our studios, and it will be streamed live on all our social channels as well. Well, it still needs final approval, but as far as we know, the first phase of a Gaza ceasefire deal has been agreed upon by Israel and Hamas. President Trump says the remaining hostages could be released as soon as Monday when the fighting stops.
We know that in this phase one agreement, this is the plan now that would see the release of potentially all the remaining hostages, the release of Palestinian